Hello everyone, it is me, Hornhelm, and I'm back again with another presentation from the Dwarven Vault, and today we have another monster review. Continuing with more creatures that are undead and can be turned, we're going to talk today to you about the WRAITH. This is as shown in the original Monster Manual and as used with basic Dungeons & Dragons and Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, or what's commonly called 1E. Once again, another turnable creature. The WRAITH is not that high on the list either. It is in many ways similar to the White, but it is more firmly planted in the negative material plane than the White is. It's very shadowy. It cannot operate in full sunlight at all. It always hangs out in the very darkest of catacombs and caverns and things like that. So the WRAITH is another one of these that, because it's firmly planted in the negative material plane, it also has the usual immunities to, sleep, hold, charm, poison, paralyzation, cold spells, that kind of stuff. Which makes it a tough customer right there. No special magic resistance. But it does have a very nasty attack. It has a energy drain attack. Its cold touch can do, I think, it's either 1 to 6 or 1 to 8 points of damage. And on top of that, it is a level drainer. No special save or anything else. You lose 1 level. Once again, that's a level including all, the hit die that go along with it. Any changes in specializations or spell lists and things like that would also be affected. You can earn it back, but it's not an effect that wears off. Pretty nasty creature. Now, they're not to be confused with, like, the ring wraiths or something like that. They are wraiths. But in the context of Dungeons & Dragons, they weren't really all that powerful, though they do have a very nasty effect. Unfortunately, a wraith is really not that powerful of a creature, so it has only a armor class of 4. It has a hit dice of 3 plus 4. That's not a great deal of endurance. It is lawful evil. It's very intelligent. And of course, it's going to want to get in its attack to drain energy. Though it specifically doesn't say so in the book, I would really read it as a white when it comes down to what happens if it's able to take you down to 0 levels. Because everything else on this is aligned to be like a white. Now, once again, it's a energy sucking creature, so it takes away levels, and if you mention that to players, they get quite excited. In talking to the DMs about this, they said, yeah, this is a bad creature. One thing I've left out at this point is that these can move. They can move at twice the speed, normal speed, that a human can. And the DM said that, yeah, they don't have a lot of hit points. So endurance is not all that long, but they can cause some pretty good mayhem. They're certainly far from impossible to hit, but they move very fast, so they can chase around people in a group. Less vulnerable if you're higher level, obviously, but if you're mid to low level, these can be a handful. And one of the problems you can run into with these is the fact that if they're wanderings, it can be 2 to 12. That's a lot of these things, even though they're not very high level. If you run into more than one and you're in a relatively dark, confined space, you're going to be in potential trouble. There are some easy solutions. Obviously, using anything that casts a high degree of light is going to drive it away, which is a pretty simple spell, honestly. Having said that, there are plenty of opportunities for them to ambush you in a difficult situation. And all it takes is a touch or two. I mean, really, let's say you're a 8th level cleric, and suddenly you're a 7th level cleric. Well, now suddenly you can't turn certain creatures. and maybe you lost a spell or two. Or not necessarily lost it, but lost the ability to cast it. Can be some pretty heavy repercussions. So, the Wraith, in talking to the greater Hornhelm community, the dungeon masters that I spoke to on that side of it said the Wraith is actually a pretty good creature to use, especially if you're going to be using more than one. And it came back as a pretty solid 3.5 to 4. Of course, once again, talking to the players out there, they get all agitated whenever it has anything to do with losing levels, and they come back with higher ratings for these as an opponent. And I consistently got a 4 to 4.5. No surprise there. Now, once again, no special defenses. A Wraith is something that can be turned. It's a pretty moderately easy one to turn, so you don't have to be a super high level cleric to be able to have a chance against a Wraith. They're not as powerful as a Wight. But, once again, their primary power is pretty much identical to what a Wight does, and because these can move fast and in groups, a pretty substantial group potentially, they can be a very dangerous opponent. Final word is be careful, be prepared, be aware of what's out there. The more you know, right, the better off you're going to be. This creature, like many creatures, has morphed a bit over time, but a lot of the original undeads have really carried through with far less variation than I would have suspected, except for the fact that the list has grown quite a bit. But for the early days, the Wraith was a tough customer. All undeads, to one degree or another, were a tough customer and creepy to go up against in the earlier days of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. That, my friends, is the Wraith. We hope you found that interesting, educational, fun, all that kind of good stuff. If you did, please be so kind as to leave us a like. Consider sharing with your friends. Leave a comment. Subscribe. It's free. But most of all, come back and see us again real soon. We very much appreciate your kind support. Take care, everyone. And remember, dwarves rock!